Hey, Pat McCardle here, back for another episode of Shop Talk. Extending the series on this all-new awesome RZR XP. Today we got the 4-seater. And the cool part about this is we're gonna talk all about comfort. So we're gonna dive in on suspension, talk about what's new and different there. We're gonna show you the back seats, the front seats, and all about the cockpit and interior and dash. So let's move up to the front end of this thing, talk about the shocks and suspension a little bit. So there's a couple upgrades that aren't so easy to see or that you might not notice. If you look down where the shock mounts at the bottom here, we actually extended the weld on these upper A-arms a little bit to add some strength into this lower shock mount. So you get a little better durability out of it, but still using 2-inch Walker Evans needle shocks in the front, 2.5-inch in the back. We've got a big beefy mainspring and a tender spring up top on the front. And if we roll back to the back of the unit, we've actually ported over the triple spring technology from the Pro XP to the back end. So you see we've got this big mainspring in the back, we've got the tender, and then we've got this third spring right up at the top that looks like it's in coil bind. But really all this little spring is here to do is that when the wheel drops all the way out into full droop, that spring takes up the stack so that the springs don't get slack and you worry about anything falling out of place. So the beauty of this triple spring setup and the new spring rates is that we can actually handle better weight in the back. So if you're loading this up with cargo, gear, accessories, people, you don't have to worry about losing as much ground clearance with this new setup, but we still maintain a really comfortable ride. So it's a really, really nice setup overall, where you get a more plush ride when you're cruising the trails, but you can still handle additional weight. So cool thing about these needle shocks that a lot of people really don't quite understand how they work, but inside, if you look down kind of in the top of this shock, sticking straight down, there's actually a needle that pokes into the inside of this body. And then on the end of the rod, there's a piston that moves up and down. Well, the top of that piston is actually hollow. So if you think you got a needle and the piston comes up, oil can actually bypass the piston, but once it gets up into that needle, it constricts the flow and it slows it down. So it actually acts like an anti-bottoming device in that last few inches of travel. And when it goes the other way on the extension stroke, it actually gives you an anti-kick, so you don't have to worry about the back end kind of launching you off if you get a little light in the back from time to time. So these needle shocks are actually like a two-stage. You know, you kind of have the normal ride zone, and then you've got the anti-bottoming, anti-kick zone right at the top of the stroke. So great technology from the comfort side. With the new spring package, with the new vehicle, the engineers have also completely retuned these, and they've really gone for a trail-friendly tune. So you can ride this rig anywhere, but it's really more set up to be more comfortable and a little more posh as you go. So really crisp handling, really good ride quality. Overall, wonderful upgrade on the suspension here. All right, so a couple other things you guys might notice is that we've got some holes in the side of the trailing arms here in the back. Those are actually set up so that if you want to add a trailing arm guard, you can slot it in, screw it in, and you're ready to go. So it makes it way easier to bolt that on. The other thing in the back that you're not really going to be able to see is we've actually added doubler plates where that trailing arm connects back to the wheel end. So again, more strength, more durability. And with that, let's jump into the cockpit and really show you what this thing's like. So I'm going to start in the back. First and foremost, what do you notice? Brand new seats in this rig, front and rear. They're the same all the way around. The only difference is how they mount, because the rear seats don't slide. On this 4-seater, the fronts can go forward and back. So we've actually got the driver's seat positioned all the way back, and the passenger seat slid all the way forward. So when I jump in here, even as a guy that's 6'1", 235, 240, like I can fit in the back of this and be comfortable all day. So it doesn't look like there's a ton of space, but the cool thing is when I slide in here, I've got plenty of room. I can actually hook my feet underneath the seat in front of me, and the floor actually angles up a little bit in the front, so I can kind of push off with the balls of my feet to support me a little better. And the side of these seat shells is nice and smooth, so it's a one-piece body on the seat kind of wrapping up the base and the back, and it gives me a nice spot to really lock my legs into so I don't have to worry about my knees banging off anything sharp. And this is with the seat all the way back, right? So I've got nice handholds to be able to hold on to. There's some spacers on the seat to keep that from pinching my fingers, whether I go up top or on the sides. The other nice thing on these seats is the bolstering's really good, so I don't feel like I'm floating back and forth. And the rear seat, we've actually moved up about an inch. The front seat's gone down about an inch. So I actually get better sight lines out of the vehicle as well from the back seat. Now you can see, I can see over the front seat. Now obviously when there's a driver, their helmet's gonna stick up, right? So that's gonna block my view a little bit out the front. But if I'm looking out the side or over at the front passenger, it's a lot easier for me to see coming in the back seat now. So it's really nice, and it's really, even though we've maintained, a shorter wheelbase, so to speak, we've gotten a lot more usable room now and a lot more comfortable space, even in the back seats for full-size adults in the new RZR XP. All right, so hopping into the front, first thing you notice here, there's a little notch on the door. That's really showing you where the door handle is. Let me show you how these seats come in and out because it's a little different than previous RZRs. So first things first, get your harnesses out of the way and find this big red strap that's hanging out in the back. Makes it real easy. You know, you can grab it from the outside or it's got a loop, so give that a pull. It'll rock the seat up. You want to tilt it till it's at about, I don't know, 30, 40 degree angle, and then slide it kind of straight toward the back, and that'll get your seat out. And what I want to show you here is kind of what the interface looks like. So you'll see that there's these little kind of C-shaped or U-shaped components. Those, when you go to put it back in, you basically line it up on this bar on either side. So again, slide your seat at an angle. Once you got that engaged, then you drop it down and it locks in on the bar in the back. When you look inside the door, there's actually a nice spot here that your hand can roll into to be able to shut the door. So if you got a door side that's full of mud, you don't have to worry about getting your hands all dirty. You can pull on that to close the door and keep your hands nice and clean. Another cool thing on the upper level trims, we've actually got new webbing that came out. So on these 4 points now, they're really easy to adjust. Now, some of you guys that ride in like really muddy conditions, you might go, hey Pat, you know, yeah, it's nice and easy when they're new, but once I get them full of mud, I can never move them. Well, these get easier when they're new or when they got some dirt. But the other pro tip here is when you're washing your machine, get your garden hose and wash around the webbing, wash around this adjustment, and then actually take it while it's wet, adjust it again, wash that part, and then wash the webbing where it was in that adjuster, and that'll make it almost like new again, where it gets really easy to adjust, even if you get it full of dirt and debris over time. So on these seats, again, we've actually taken them, dropped them down a little bit, and made it easier for you to be able to slide back and forth. There's a little handle right under the middle of the seat here. So seat slider is way better, whether you got a seat that's brand new or one that's used. It's way easier to adjust so that it doesn't get jammed up like some of our earlier sliders. And from an enclosure, keeping you clean, you can see the bottoms of the doors actually have a nice seal that kind of goes all the way around the bottom half of the door here. So that'll keep a lot of that debris kicking off the tire from coming up into you. So you stay a lot cleaner and a lot drier in these as well. From an ergonomics and comfort point of view, the new seats are the cat's tail, man. Like, these things are fantastic. The bolstering is great. They hold you in. You get all day comfort out of them. We've actually extended the thigh a little bit so you get better support under the bottom of your leg. So again, like when you talk all day comfort, these seats are a step up big time compared to previous gen RZR seats. So this is one of my favorite things actually from the comfort side. Another thing, if you circle around here and look kind of down at the floor, what you'll notice is that there's a lot of differences going on here. So I still got somewhere for my heel to hit when I'm rocking the pedal or the brake, but from the dead pedal side, I got a few different spots I can put my left foot. So I can put it here where it's, a slight incline, almost like you'd think of driving a bus. I can kick it up under the fender well, but then there's also this little notch section here where I can actually lay my foot down, kind of splay my knee out and get a lot of all day comfort because I got different options on where I can move around to. And the nice part on the door is that there's nothing sharp for my leg to run into. So even when I close that door, I've got nice smooth surfaces and not like big chunky bolt heads that I'm gonna have to worry about shredding my knee. As you look forward to the front of this vehicle, we've taken the lessons learned on ergonomics of the steering wheel. So we've dropped that down, pulled it back so I can keep my shoulders planted. We've shrunk the wheel down. We've compensated that. So it's a nice, easy steering effort with the power assist that we've got here. And from a dash layout, it's all new, right? So cool thing here, if you look at these storage bins, I've actually got my cell phone slotted in the one in the driver's seat. And on this model with Ride Command, we've actually got a USB port. So if you want to charge your phone while you're riding, you can run a cable and do that. We've actually moved the gauge to the center of the vehicle on this so I can get beautiful sight lines right up over. So if I'm doing technical riding, I don't have to worry about something sticking up and trying to look over it and block that view. So that's part of the reason that we've moved this gauge here. It also makes it so that kind of the banana curve at the top of the steering wheel doesn't block what you're looking at. So I can get a quick glance at what I see, and in this case, the passenger can also dial in the radio or whatever audio they want, or mapping, or any of that good stuff. On these storage bins, we've actually got one on both sides, driver and passenger, and they can stay, kind of at a 3/4 spot if you got a windshield, or go all the way vertical if you don't, like we have here. Small cubby here on the right side, we've still got a giant glove box, so you can see my arm is like, vanishing into the thing completely. I don't know, that's gotta be over a foot deep. So when you look at these switches, the other cool thing is that they're backlit. So you can actually see what the function is of each one at night without having to, spend a bunch of time in the dark. We've got additional 5 cutouts here, or knockouts for accessories. You just pop the cover, you can drop more switches in. And when you get over to the passenger side, this new grab handle is actually super cool. So you got a single cam over lever on the bottom. You flip that down and this thing's infinitely adjustable. So you can get this whole slot, wherever you want to lock it in, you flip that handle up and you're good to go. The other cool thing you see is that the end actually has like a socket built into it, and you can use these for knocking lug nuts loose. Pretty simply put, to be able to get this thing out, you drop the handle down, pull the pin out, you got 2 pieces that come with it on the bottom and 1 on the top. Once you got those out of the way, this handle slides right out, and when you look, you got 2 different size lugs, 118 I think, 119, and if I could find the right size, they drop right out of the lug nut, and you got a nice long torque arm to be able to crank those lug nuts off, swap your tire, keep going. One of the other cool things on the floor here that you can see maybe, it's not super dark, we've got interior lighting, so there's LEDs that shine down to your cup holders here in the front, as well as the foot area in both back seats. And instead of having quarter turns in the middle of the floor that people tend to lose once in a while, there's actually built-in floor drains that you can see when you get into a real unit. And the cool part is we've actually offset the holes on these with the holes in the skid plate, so even if you run over a puddle, you don't have to worry about water shooting up and out of those. So, we've gone through a ton here. Suspension upgrades, new tuning, new spring package, right? New seats, new interior, new style. Like when I think of comfort on the all-new RZR XP, this is the kind of machine that I want to take out for a full day of trail riding, never get out of it, fill it up with gas and keep riding more. Overall, fantastic machine. So that's it for this episode of Shop Talk. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.